her followers didn't know she was Catholic. She told me she didn't want to advertise it. She didn't want it to be an issue. Judy Brown's Catholic, obviously. So this is something that I know those of you involved in the Personhood initiative are having to struggle with. Now, the issue of Catholics' confusion over prudential judgment gets even more confused when it comes to the statements coming out of what is called the Bishops' Conference. The full name for it is the USCCB, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. And here is perhaps the most misunderstood single fact about the Catholic Church in the United States, and it is the following. There is only one condition under which the Bishops' Conference can make a pronouncement and it carry the full force of church authority. And that is when a statement is agreed to by every single bishop and taught by the magisterium, the teaching office of the church, with the backing of the Vatican. That's the only time. So when the bishops, send out these documents on immigration, on the Iraq War, on broadband, all these things that they issue statements on, they have no authority. They have only the authority of prudential opinions which Catholics should study and respectfully take into consideration. In fact, when you look at the role of the bishops in the teaching of the church, in the catechism and canon law, the Conference of Bishops can never, and under any conditions, speak for an individual bishop in his diocese. An individual bishop, for lack of a better phrase, rules the roost in his diocese. Do you remember back in the 2008 campaign when Bishop Martino in Scranton busted into that meeting in the local parish and stood at the back of the church and said, "The USCCB does not speak for me and my diocese." Okay? Now, it doesn't get a lot of press, but other bishops say that. Why? Because there is this confusion that somehow the USCCB is a mediating voice between the individual bishop and Catholics, and it's not. And in fact, the cardinals are not a mediating voice. Just because you see statements coming out from a group of cardinals doesn't give that statement any greater authority. Because each bishop, ecclesiologically, is Christ to the church in his diocese. Now, conferences, episcopal conferences, national conferences, as one bishop has put it, always end up speaking at a kind of level of the common denominator. No better example of that was the disastrous document that came out before the 2008 election called Faithful Citizenship, which aided and abetted Catholics who wanted to support the infanticide candidate, Barack Obama. And wouldn't it have been better for all of us if Catholics had listened to Jill Stanek on the subject of infanticide? We tried. Boy, did we try. Thank God healthcare is dead. Did y'all hear that? Yeah. Nancy Pelosi announced today that she doesn't have the votes. I heard a yell. The Catholics in the Congress do a lot of mischief, but we're doing our best to hold their feet to the fire. You know, one bishop who has supported the Personhood initiative is Bishop Robert Vasha of Baker, Oregon. How many of you know him? He's quite a guy. You should look into it. You should go on his website in the Diocese of Baker and read what he writes. He's a very prophetic voice. In fact, he wrote an article for his diocesan newspaper during the debate in Georgia in which he supported the initiative. And I want to read you one paragraph of what he said. He said this. He said, Georgia's Sanctity of Human Life Act, quote, does not seek to introduce some inane legal fiction, but rather seeks to overturn a faulty legal fiction. The fiction in which we are presently living inanely pretends that human beings are not really human beings unless the Supreme Court passes judgment on them and declares them to be so. African slaves were always human beings, and the Supreme Court decisions said or did nothing to change that. It simply recognized the truth. The Sanctity of Human Life Act seeks legal recognition of the same truth. So if you have Catholic friends who resist getting involved in your personhood efforts because, quote unquote, the bishops are not on their side, keep a copy of Bishop Vasha's comments handy and just hand it to them. And I'll tell you what, in the near future, I think you will see other bishops opening themselves up to being hospitable toward these efforts. You know, I think that this argument that somehow the court cases that may be elicited by personhood amendments would somehow, you know, reaffirm Roe, those arguments strike me as very strange. For the simple reason that I've been watching these these Supreme Court nominees sit in front of the Judiciary Committee of the Senate saying it's settled law. Roberts said it was settled law. Alito said it was settled law. Sotomayor said it was settled law. How much more settled can it be? It's settled. And it seems to me that the personhood effort is not going to more settle something that's already settled or somehow, you know, create kind of uber settlement of something. It seems to me we're trying to throw a stick of dynamite at it. And you know, the arguments that are being used on behalf of against the personhood effort, it seems to me are arguments that we can use on behalf of the personhood amendment. I mean, we all know the reason why this started was because my friend Justice Blackmun himself, when he wrote the decision, he laid his finger on the vulnerability of his decision when he wrote, if the suggestion of personhood of the preborn is established, the abortion rights case, of course, collapses, for the fetus's right to life is then guaranteed specifically by the 14th Amendment. You know, I don't think legal decisions based upon fetal homicide laws, legal decisions based upon partial birth abortion, legal decisions based upon parental notification are even going to get close to the heart of Roe versus Wade. The personhood effort is the only one that I think even has that chance. Why? Because it goes at the foundation of the issue as articulated by the author of Roe himself. It seems to me that instead of this kind of public polemic that is being carried on by pro-life attorneys against the effort, they should just say, God bless you and wish us success. Yeah. It's certainly what I do toward their efforts, their incrementalist efforts. You know, perhaps they'll have more success than we think they will, and if so, God bless them. I wish that was their attitude toward us, because nobody is the traffic cop of the pro-life movement. Nobody is the final arbiter of how you, pro-life activists, spend your time, talent, and your coin. Seems to me that when Jim Bopp of National Right to Life writes the following, it could be used as a great argument for the personhood initiative.